What's up, guys? Welcome to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at Nvidia stock, ticker symbol NVDA, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day, Thursday, April 4th. Alright guys, Nvidia stock here today down just a bit here, $4.88 a share, minus 0.55% in regular trading hours. It is essentially flat here thus far in the after hours. Let's take our daily look here and try to pull out as much bias as we possibly can from a variety of sources. And then we'll take a look at the directional bias coming from the chain. And finally, the expected move. Let's take a look here. Starting with the 5-minute chart, we'll do our quick volume profile analysis to see what the, when we peel back a layer of that onion, what we're getting here in terms of bias. Does it correlate with the actual movement of the stock? Is there anything that we should be aware of when we look deeper than the price action itself? So the moves that I'm primarily interested in, that pop that we got off the open to intraday highs of 903.74, and then this fade I really want to take a look at, as well as this fade into the close. So let's pull this up here and take a look. Hey, listen, by the way, if you're new to the channel, I'm covering Nvidia stock every single day. Beginning tomorrow, I will have a set in stone daily schedule. Nvidia will be covered every single trading day, and that will be uploaded at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time every single day. So I appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Let's take a look. So starting as always, or as typical, from left to right, let's take a look here. We see this pop in volume as the stock pushed upside up to that $900 area, pushing through a little bit to 903.74. We saw that volume increase, but listen, for me, we're getting random pops. There's a little bit of risk of fooled by randomness. These two bars are relatively contextual, even though we typically expect that fade in volume off the open. I would say that this is contextual compared to the surrounding volume. And we also have a poppy red bar mixed in there. Listen, for me, interestingly, there's actually not a ton of bias. Oh, whoops, let's fix that. There's not a ton of bias off the open. You know, even on that push up toward $900, it's not really there. Even though we did get some poppy bars, they're mixed together and they're not consistent enough for me to really feel comfortable putting a bias on that move. On this move that we got, the fade kind of late morning here. So now you bears, you guys are looking for bearish bias, right? But look at this. We have kind of a pyramid with 5 consecutive red bars and then a very contextual 5 consecutive green bars that basically wash each other out. So, I mean, listen, bears, there's really none for you there either. This is a very interesting volume profile. There's not a lot of bias supporting the moves today. And if we take a look at this fade that we got into the close, you know, some bears might argue that we saw a little bit out of context there. For me, it's not enough. You have a similar thing going on back here. It's just not enough. And you see that relatively contextual fade upside into the close, which is very normal here. So listen, just as interesting, I think, as when you see a very obvious bias, there's really not much here today. Which, I mean, listen, I would argue if you're a huge bear or a huge bull on essentially a flat day, it's not a bad thing. Potentially helps to kind of explain the lack of net movement by the end of the day. All right, now let's move on to the 30-minute. This is where we'll start taking a look at the psychological self-fulfilling prophecy levels that I'm going to be paying close attention to here heading into tomorrow. So you guys remember, you know, yesterday we were discussing more so how this stock needed to reclaim that 50 period, at least from a bullish perspective. We tested it today. We tried. We got up through on big volume, made a retest on lower volume, but the pull away was just weak and it got rejected by that bigger level of 900, 950, that area. And we rejected hard and ended up closing beneath it. To me, a lot of that failure has to do with this rejection right around 9. But I mean, listen, it's really no excuse because at the end of the day, we gave it up again, even though it was very late in the day, right? We spent the majority of the day above the 50 period, which I always discuss, I think is very important upon reclaims. But we now find ourselves, you know, at the end of the day here in after hours sitting below. So we're in a similar position that we were in yesterday heading into today. Now heading into tomorrow, we're in a similar position. Bulls, I want to see a reclaim of the 50 period. Again, big volume, low volume retest, big volume bounce. That's good confirmation. Remember here, we got the bounce, but the volume just kind of faded. It wasn't really all that excited because we had $900 to worry about. Whereas you bears, you guys don't really have that problem to the downside. Just any retest of the 50 period, you guys just want to see a hard high volume rejection and you don't really have that big technical / psychological level in your way. All right, now let's move on here to the 4-hour and take a look. You can see here that the 4-hour is a very similar story. That 50 period's right above, right around 914, a little higher. Very similar to yesterday. Listen, of course, bulls, I want to see a reclaim of that, but I'm much more worried about 900 here in the short term. That needs to be tackled first. We currently find ourselves here on the 4-hour chart approximately 2.7% away from that 50 period, so it's not a tremendous move away. So a reclaim of that in a similar fashion like we talked about on the 30-minute chart, that would be beautiful, but right now my primary concern is 9, which brings us now to the daily. Guys, we tried to reclaim 9 again today and ultimately failed. Right? We got rejected there. Okay? The story here is $900. I mean, there's no way around it. That really is the story. It's been a couple of days now of trying and failing. After 3 days of the bears trying and failing, we've now flipped the script. You bulls. Now for today and yesterday, the last couple of trading days, the bulls, we're struggling to reclaim 9. Whereas you bears, similar to what we saw anywhere from 3 to 5 days ago, the bulls were struggling to take the stock higher away from 9. Now you bears are kind of struggling to take it lower. We're hanging out around 9. There's really not a lot of definitive, finalized decision making going on here. This is a very undecided stock here. The bears and bulls, I know it looks like there's not a lot of movement, but there's a battle going on right now. It's not tremendous in terms of volume, but in terms of price action, there's a battle. And that battle right now just hinges on $900 a share. Whether the bulls are able to get above 900, reclaim that, test it, reclaim that, make the decision on big volume and then pull upside away, putting some distance, I'm talking like 30, 40, 50, $60 a share. That would be a beautiful thing to see. Whereas bears, to really get out of this battle that we're currently in, I think you guys are going to just need to see a higher volume move downside, whether that's just from here or off another test of 9, really deciding to go down and test 850. I think it's going to take that decision that, okay, 850 is in play for you guys to take this thing lower. But listen, again, bulls, if we look at like the 5-minute, for example, this isn't enough. An hour, 2 hours of reclaim, it's just not enough. You guys hear me say this all the time, and yet I consistently hear people say, wow, we reclaimed 9, and they're getting all excited intraday, and it's been 4 minutes. It's been an hour. Right? No. We need to see a reclaim on big volume, a retest on like a longer term macro chart, and a big hold, ideally for the entirety of a trading day, if not 2 or 3 days. Okay, it's a big deal to reclaim a level that big. It's not really something that happens in a few minutes, okay, but it can occur in a single day if the confirmation is decisive enough or definitive enough. Okay, now implied volatility still falling. Okay, remember, the lower that goes, the more favorable conditions become for new options traders or new options buyers, more so to come in and buy. Expected move. Again, the next expiration we have is this Friday at the close. By then, it's plus or minus $22.22 per share. So you divide that by 2 trading days, you get about $11 a share, plus or minus. But I like to add about 50% to that to account for the potential of a mixed red and green day, which gives us a market expectation of about $16 to $17 per share per day, plus or minus. Now, finally, the options bias. This is actually some directional bias, which we can pull from the analysis and the options chain, whereas the volatility expectation is just another piece of the pie that gives us a volatility expectation, not a directional bias. The options chain, nearly 1 million contracts traded today, 584,500 calls, 392,000 puts, so a call side bias on the overall. And if you take a look down here, just a slight call side bias on the 0 to 20 short-term speculator range, 194,000 calls, 163,000 puts. Listen, if you get value out of these videos, again, Nvidia will be uploaded every single weekday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's 30 minutes after the market closes every single day. Set your alarm, set your calendar. I appreciate you guys that are here so early every day. And I'll see you in the next one.